If you are hunting for that one hero workout, then you are missing the point of marathon training almost entirely. It isn't magic, it's a mix. And today I am going to be torching some of those viral myths that your favorite influencer might have been telling you about. And I'm going to give you a bit of a framework at the end that is going to actually help you with your marathon training. So, first of all, I am Nick Hancock from Maximum Mileage Coaching. I'm a USCA certified coach, a UK athletics licensed coach. I'm a 250 marathoner, and I have helped hundreds of busy athletes run PBs without destroying themselves. And in this video, we're going to go through some of the evidence. We are going to give you a bit of context and some simple rules with some of them that you can actually use this week. So let's start off with myth number one. HIIT gets you marathon ready. It's all you need is that high intensity interval training. It hits fast, but marathons, you are rewarded in the marathon by building durability, improving your capillary density, your stride economy, your fuel tolerance, your time at marathon pace, all of the volume that we are able to do where possible. High intensity interval training is brilliant. It is absolutely where we get fast. You hear these people that say you should run slow to get fast. I hate the saying. There is some truth to that, but we do need to run fast too. We do need to do intervals. We do need to do tempo work, that kind of stuff, but it is not the whole meal. It is just the seasoning. So this is what you can do in your week. You can keep one of those high intensity interval trainings once a week if you want. Ideally, you want a variety of things. I'll come on to that with one of my other myths in a moment. But you can do things like 6 by 30 seconds, 45 seconds fast with an equal recovery jog. You can do that once a week after you've done a full aerobic warm-up base. Make sure you throw your strides in there. That's going to keep you economical and program that neuromuscular connection. Okay, so myth number 2. Zone 2 is the answer. Everybody's talking about Zone 2 at the moment, right? And even I have referenced Zone 2, and I probably shouldn't be referencing Zone 2 just to help people understand what I'm talking about, just because I'm trying to get people to understand that we need to run easy a lot of the time. The more of that easy running generally we can do, the more benefit it's going to have during the marathon. But it's not all about this mythical Zone 2. It's like it's turned into some fucking religion. Yes, most of our time should be done easy, but it is not only the intensity that matters. It's about the distribution of the work that we do. It's not just about just doing hard or just doing easy. In a traditional zone 5 zone model, we want to be working in all of those zones in different amounts of time, and it's not always 80-20 either. Which one suits you often depends on your level and what phase of training you're in. The win is going to be that distribution over weeks, not just worshipping that one zone intensity forever, particularly zone 2. And also, you don't need to be panicking about what exactly your zone 2 heart rate is, because as long as it feels easy, and the studies have shown this time and time again, that as long as you are in a place where you are generally conversational, you are not having to stop mid-sentence all the time, and it genuinely feels easy, then you are probably in the right place. Science has shown us that from time and time again. You don't need to be worrying too much about the intricacies of exactly what the top end of your heart rate is, the heart rate zone or the bottom end, and you also don't need to worry so much that, if your heart rate does go out of the zone, you don't suddenly go into zone 3 and this whole different adaptation happens. Physiologically, we just don't work like that. We are always improving different things at different times in different amounts. We don't suddenly go from zone 2 to zone 3. Now a different thing is happening here. It just doesn't work like that. So what you can do with your training is just just keep as much of it as possible outside of your 1 or 2 sessions a week, and then maybe that long run. Most of that should be easy unless you are specifically in a marathon training phase, but just keep it easy. Keep it chatty, as if you could talk to somebody, or maybe you could sing. You don't have to be nose breathing either, but sometimes that can be a little bit of a way of just telling you, can you nose breathe for a minute and through your nose, and that will make sure that you are easy enough. Myth number 3, the Norwegian method 4x4 is the king workout for VO2 max, and everybody should be doing it. Oh my God. Like, if I see another influencer talk about doing the Norwegian method when they don't really understand what the Norwegian method is. Jacob Ingebrigtsen and his brothers and all of his mates, they do 4x4 sometimes, but they don't do it every day, twice a day, as you see in the double threshold stuff. Actually, that 4x4 method came from a study done by a bunch of scientists that weren't even exercise scientists. They just found that particular intervention worked slightly better than some of the other ones that they had given athletes to do. I can't remember exactly how the study was structured, but it's not all about 4x4. It does work. I do it sometimes. I give it to my athletes sometimes, depending on what it is we're trying to achieve. But it is like I might give that workout to somebody once in a 12-month period, not every week, not even every 3 months, because there are other things that work. You can do things like 8x2 or 12x90 seconds or 5x5 minutes or 6x3 minutes or whatever. There are so many ways of getting your VO2 max up. In reality, it's about how you manipulate your repetitions. It's about how you manipulate the recoveries and the pace. All of that matters more than what has become basically a brand name of a session, of one session. So here's a little takeaway for you. What you can do is, if you are looking to improve your VO2 max in that block style, you can rotate the formats. You know, 1 week you could do 4x4. Go for it. Have fun. But then next week, why don't you do 6x3 minutes? And then the week after that, you could do 15x1 minute. There's so many ways of doing it. Just track that time at intensity near your VO2, not just the reps. It's not just about 4x4 minutes. The reality check here is that those different formats can produce very similar gains depending on the test that you're doing and your background. There is no single king workout. And let's make that a nice little segue into double threshold days. So myth number 4, they are the secret that everyone needs. Well, they are quite trendy at the moment because you see a lot of the elites doing them, not just in the marathon world. You're seeing them in, yes, the Norwegians doing it, but you're also seeing some of the top ultra runners doing it. But they're built on lactate control, big mileage, and meticulous recovery. If you're watching this, for the most part, you are probably not in the position to be doing something like a double threshold day. People with like jobs, kids, life stress, you can actually turn a good week into a death spiral with something like a double threshold session if you do it wrong. You know, if you're going out there and trying to do 4x4 in the morning and then 4x4 in the afternoon because that's the session they've all told you to do, you might not feel amazing the following day. What you should really, for the most part, be doing is that one quality threshold day is going to be enough for most. You know, you can add a second sub threshold or steady day if your recovery is good in a week. But if you can't measure lactate, you know, those little lactate monitors that you see the finger prick or the ear being done, they're expensive. So just use RPE, your talk test, or your heart rate monitor can help if you know exactly at lactate threshold. But otherwise, just err on the side of being conservative. You will still build the same engine without stacking that fatigue that you just can't pay back from. Okay, myth number 5, grey zones. There was a point where even the great coach Jack Daniel, PhD, Matt Fitzgerald still talks about them, but grey zones, avoid the grey zones at all costs. No, there is no cursed pace band, steady marathon pace work. They actually teach economy under load and are vital later in the marathon training cycle. The art is the dosage and the timing, not you're not working in the right place. If you are running kind of in that steady hard, moderately hard all of the time, then yes, maybe there is going to be a little bit of an issue because you're not able to get working at different varieties, and that's what we need as runners. We need variety. We need to work in all of those zones, right from 1 all the way up to zone 5, or if that's the model you're using, or if you're a 3-zone model, don't fear zone 2. It's fine, and this is where zones get confusing because there's different models. What you want to be doing is just think about in your kind of early phase, mostly easy, you're building up your base, and throw in some strides and a few very short intervals, maybe some hill sprints, that kind of stuff. And then as you move along, you can start inserting some longer intervals. You can start inserting 20 to 40 minutes total at marathon pace inside your long runs. Just keep that moderate marathon pace volume modest until you start getting towards race day, where your long run, you will have built up your long run durability by then. So yeah, there are no grey zones. We need all zones. We are zone agnostic at maximum mileage, that's for sure. We train in all of them. We try and get a nice distribution of that intensity. The higher the intensity, yes, the less of it we do. The lower the intensity, the more of it we do. But don't fear any grey zones. There is no such thing. And as I said earlier on in the video, when you are thinking about zones, you don't suddenly go from, oh, fuck, I'm on zone 2 to, oh no, I'm in zone 3. Oh no, panic. Just doesn't work like that. So myth number 6, tape your mouth. Nasal only breathing will transform your training. What? I mean, it's a viral thing, right? It looks good on the internet. It's a bit controversial, and unfortunately that's the way algorithms push content. So yeah, no, it's not the thing. It's very thin on high quality evidence. It actually has risks if you have a nasal obstruction or a cold or asthma or something like that. Oxygen is good. Restricting oxygen is not something you need to be doing. So just while you're out on your runs, practice relaxed diaphragmatic breathing on your easy runs, trying to get as much oxygen down into the lower parts of your lungs as possible. And then if you snore or you suspect some sort of sleep apnea or something like that, get assessed. Don't stick tape on your face. The bottom line is that trendy is not equal to proven, and safety does matter. Myth number 7, super shoes mean that you're going to run faster, and it works for everybody. They don't. Those, the modern super shoes, I've got a whole rack of them behind me here. They are great. They do work. They do make you feel like you want to run faster, and they improve running economy on average, but responses to them do vary wildly. They don't erase the need for strength training, mileage, and pacing skill, and you certainly shouldn't be wearing them all of the time in training if you do own a pair. You need to be. It's a bit like you wouldn't use a hammer to open a bottle, right? Because it's just not the right tool. You use a bottle opener to open a bottle. And it's a bit like with your running. Have the right tool for the job. So if you could just go out there for that easy mileage that we've been talking about through this video, then get yourself just some nice, durable daily trainers with decent cushioning, and save the carbon plates mostly for race day and in some sessions before race day. If you've got an older pair, like I've got a few older pairs now that I don't race in anymore, I will use them for my speed work, but certainly don't be out there running in your carbon shoes all of the time. So some of the numbers, without the hype, I guess, meta-analysis, lab work, some of the suggestions are that economy gains often around the 2 to 4% ballpark improvement, but individual responses do differ a lot. One little myth I'm just going to, sort of a half myth I'm going to add into the super shoe thing, is that you hear people who run slower than a 7-minute mile or whatever pace they've decided to pick shouldn't use super shoes because it doesn't work for them. That's also nonsense. I disagree with that. Again, it's all down to individual response. I actually know some very fast runners who don't like them. They don't feel like they get the benefit from them. Or actually, there's one person I know who every time he's used them, he's been slower than other races he's done. So it's not always about the super shoes. Myth number 8, strength makes runners bulky and slow. Nope. Heavy and some explosive lifting improves running economy and fatigue resistance. And this can happen within 6 to 12 weeks without harming aerobic capacity. These studies have been coming out thick and fast recently. My good friends at the Loughborough University have put out some fantastic work on this to show how strength training with heavy, low repetition lifts, some plyometric work, transfers really well into running. And whilst there is a growing number of people that are actually getting under a barbell, for those of you out there who still don't want to do the strength work because you think it's going to negatively affect your performance, you are missing out, especially in the marathon. And all you need to do is 1 or 2 sessions, 30 to 40 minutes in multiple different directions, some squats, some hinges, some single leg stuff, some calf raises, a bit of push and pull, specific to your running. Don't just go and do some random stuff. Low reps, nice form, even 2 sets of each exercise can be enough to move the needle. You don't need to be in the gym for 2 or 3 hours at a time. Keep it away from your hardest run, particularly don't do it before a hard run on the same day. Don't stack those 2 true smashers next to each other. This is going to help with better force production, better economy, and late race posture. And just anecdotally, I remember when I did my first marathon, oh my God, my glutes were on fire. Got my ass into gear, literally, and started doing my strength training. I don't feel that glute burn anymore, and quads as well. And I put that down to strength work. Myth number 9, and this is always a controversial one. Go low carb or train fasted to become more fat adapted. No, fat adaptation is a tool. It's not a trophy. And for marathon performance, carbohydrate availability and gut training are absolute king. Now, interestingly, as I talk about this, just in the last 24 hours, one of the biggest proponents of low carb, even keto training, one of the biggest proponents of low carb training, Zach Bitter, held the 100-mile world record for ages. I think he might still do. I'm pretty sure that's been broken. But anyway, Zach Bitter, massively, for years, I think 15 years, he has been absolutely hammering the low carb message for a very long time now. And even he, in the last few days, has come out on his Substack blog and said he cannot ignore the evidence in the science and the evidence in race results around high carb fueling. And that's what he's done. He started really adding in quite a bit of carbohydrate into his training. Potatoes, sourdough bread. I mean, he's kept it very natural, but he is really piling the carbohydrate into his own training now as an experiment. But I think he'll find carbs are the king. So practice your carbohydrates on your long runs, glucose and fructose mix, 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour. Eat normally around the hard work. If you play around with a bit of lower carb, do it on those easy days, because higher carbohydrate intake, it supports pace, it supports durability, it supports lower perceived effort late in a race, it supports faster recovery. Like, the list goes on. Don't fear the carbs. I know it's hard not to, because there's still influencers out there pushing the low carb message. Carnivore, what's that about? So dangerous. Don't do it to yourself. And the final one, and a cracker, another one blows my mind. Running is going to ruin your knees. Oh, it's just mind-blowing. It's, recreational runners actually tend to show equal or even lower hip, knee issues prevalence than non-runners. Overuse and poor progression cause the niggles, and other factors as well, like poor sleep and poor nutrition, being low carb. The act of running itself is actually very good for our joints. So keep running, folks. Another myth for you: ice baths, cold plunges are essential for recovery, and you should do them, particularly after hard sessions. Look, I have been known to have an ice bath from my own perspective, with things going on with my wife's health. If you're new to the channel, my wife has stage 4 cancer. So I used to take ice baths, and the reason I used to take them, it was 3 minutes of my day where my adrenaline would go up and I would, get that dopamine rush, but also it was just 3 minutes of my day where I had to empty my mind and not think about anything other than being in that cold water and my breath. So for me, it was a mental health thing. But cold water immersion, it can feel great, but cold water immersion, particularly right after a strength workout, can blunt things like muscle hypertrophy signals, strength gain signals. Endurance effect mixed. There are some very small studies that show endurance performance gains, but there are also plenty that show it's not. If you are going to use ice baths, do it away from training. Do it early in the day and then do your training later on in the day. Don't do your training and then get in the ice bath, no matter what you see on the internet. But do you know what? If you really want to and you want to get in after you've done a workout because you think it feels good, then go for it. But just know the science doesn't actually support that. Myth number 12, cadence must be 180. Now, I've caught some flack, shall we say, about cadence on some of my Instagram posts. And the reason I've caught some flack is because I have been saying that it is worth getting for most people, particularly if you're kind of in the lower ranges of cadence. We're talking sort of, I tend to see around 165. That's the number I've picked. It's not always the case. I mean, I ain't about to go and tell Jim Walmsley that he's running wrong. That's for sure. There is no universal cadence. But there are studies, and there has been a brand new meta-analysis come out very recently. They did a huge study on this where small individual increases of around about 5 to 10% can reduce hip and knee loading, which is useful if you're managing pain. It doesn't have to be 180. I've mentioned him already in this episode. The great coach Jack Daniel, he told everybody that they needed to be 180 steps per minute. That isn't true. There is a range, which, as I say, I tend to find, the amount of people I've coached now, I tend to find where I see somebody who has a cadence under 165, that can quite often turn into niggles. And I do tend to find that it works really well in keeping them injury free, getting them faster, if we increase our cadence a little bit. So if you are feeling a bit niggly, and have a little look at your cadence you can look on Strava, you can look on your Garmin, you can look on Training Peaks if you use that. See what your cadence is, your average cadence per run, and try and just bump it up around about 5% for the same pace, for even just doing 5 to 10 minute blocks of it within runs. Cadence can be a lever, but it's not a law. So there's a lot of myths we've just gone through. If you want some of this turned into some of these myths debunked and helping you with your own running, then in the description below, and have a chat with either me or one of my team. We can build what's proper into your plans. There you have it, folks. These trends will come and go, but marathons still reward the boring, consistent stuff done well. Build your base, touch your threshold, dose a bit of speed in from time to time, lift a bit, feel like it matters, because it does. If you want me to crash another myth, then drop it in the comments below and I'll tackle it in another video. But for now, thank you. Like, subscribe, share this with a mate who's about to tape their mouth shut before a 20 miler. I'll see you in the next video.